Espathra EX. What is going on? Braiden is, of course, a regional champion. He loves to play these weird decks, but Braiden, man, this is completely off the walls.
Yeah, you might have seen my not-so-soft messaging. I was pointing at my Natu pin, and there was a good reason for that. We see the Zatuk representation there with the Espathra. This is such a cool rogue deck to see. It is not what I was expecting at all going into this tournament.
Yeah, but let's not count out William as well. Of course, a Brazilian player, has been playing for years and years. A top 4 international championship back in 2018, and a 2-time regional champion in the Latin America circuit, is playing Charizard EX. Now, usually, fire against, you know, everything gets weird because normally the fire type maybe would just have an even matchup with the Psychic, but both of these Pokemon decided to Terrastalize on their cards. So we have a grass type up against a dark type. There's a few moving pieces we'll have to talk about in this match. Let's take a look and see these maybe a little bit more wacky card inclusions. We've got a few Buddy Poppin', a few Capturing Aroma. There is that Luminion in the prize cards for William if he needs to use something like an early Luminous Sign ability.
Yeah, not ideal, especially because as far as I can tell from the list, there is no Hisuian Heavy Ball here in William's list, so no option to fish that out to get it earlier. We'll actually take it as a prize to do so. Meanwhile, Braiden's prizes, yeah, a couple of Buddy Poppins isn't great in terms of early setup, but other than that, there's mainly just setup cards in there, so in terms of actual access to resources, Braiden's not going to have too hard a time.
Yeah, this is Espathra having that powerful attack. It deals more damage. Psy Ball, we've seen X Ball, very, very similar. 30 damage, plus 30 for each energy attached to both active Pokemon. And of course, with weakness coming into a factor, it's going to be an exciting one. Let's get down to it. Starting things out now, William, if he doesn't already know, won't actually have the news so far because Braiden is starting one of the non-dead giveaway Pokemon in this deck, just the Manaphy. But William only able to just bench Pidgey and pass, not able to get down this Rotom.
Yeah, it's not ideal, but at the very least, you do have one of each of your evolutions. So next turn, if William can find a Rare Candy plus a Stage 2, can go into either the Pidgeot or the Charmander. So about as good as a bad start could go, I would say.
Braiden with an excellent start. Buddy Poppin can get out multiple of these basic Pokemon. Already just checking through the deck to see who is going to be the selection. Of course, not only using that ability, of course, to accelerate more energy, Clairvoyant Sense, but it also puts the energy into play and draws you a few cards, so it acts as a built-in draw engine, very similar to that Underworld Door ability we saw a few years back with that Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX.
Yeah, absolutely. So draw power and energy acceleration, both built into one neat little package. Very, very nice to have, and especially when you can get a bunch of out early on. Of course, with that Buddy Poppin', one of those decks that really doesn't lose much at all, if anything, from the Rotation Battle VIP pass, because all your evolving basics have so little HP anyway. And we do see there the Rigid Band as well, going onto the Flittle.
They're going to reduce that once it evolves. Going to take 30 less damage from Stage 1 Pokemon, and a Professor's Research to just discard the hand, draw a few cards, but there's really nothing else happening in this hand.
Yeah.
Let's have a copy of that Pokemon League headquarters, but it's, I think, more than okay to just pass the turn over. Top deck for turn is a Buddy Poppin', and that's not a bad card to have, but with how William's hand looks as it stands right now, will not have the pieces to make a powerful turn to play like Rare Candy into Pidgeot, Rare Candy into Charizard, may have to rely off of this Iono to draw some cards and see what they grant him.
Yeah, play Iono, draw a fresh 6. If you can find then the Rare Candy plus a Stage 2, then you're pretty good to go, but this Buddy Poppin', great top deck, because of course that will thin the deck of 2 more cards, just to increase that odds just a little bit more of finding that 2-card combination from the Iono.
And I'll be interested to see if William decides to not put a lot of Charizard EX into play. Charizard is a very efficient attacker. It does only attack for 2 fire energy, but you got to start doing the math. So anything over 160 damage, so 170 or more, will take the knockout. So with 30 base, if there's 5 total energy in play between both Pokemon, that will be 180 damage. With weakness, we'll be able to take the knockout. And I mean, that's not that hard. The 2 energy on the Charizard to attack, and then 3 energy on the Espathra, and we're looking at a 1-hit KO on a Dark Terrastalized Charizard.
Yeah, it really does not take a lot at all. I think you still want to use the Buddy Poppin' to get out as many attackers as possible, because ultimately, yeah, you do get hit for weakness, but you need to attack, right? So still thin your deck out for a couple of cards. A Cleffer could also be a great option. See, William went for that just to draw more in case he doesn't find what he needs. So yeah, really great fin off the Buddy Poppin'. Let's see what this Iono brings.
So both players drawing up to 6 cards. See what each player has, what options are available. There's that Forest Seal Stone in the hand, another Buddy Poppin', but it looks like tons of basics here too. So we could see William potentially thin the hand out. We also did see that Charmander come into play, and there is an energy card to retreat into this Cleffa that was benched. Could see maybe Charmander evolve up into Charmeleon. Now it is that Paldean Fates Charmeleon that William has played. You can see sort of some weird plays where if you're using the Heat Tackle Charmeleon with weakness, of course, the Espathra being terrestrialized to a grass type, you would be able to deal 140 damage for 2 energy, and if you can maybe cycle a little bit with something like your Super Rod, would be able to take a 2-hit knockout. Now the Rigid Band makes things a little bit more interesting. It kind of messes with some of the math, but that is a potential play. Williams definitely got to think a little bit outside the box in this matchup.
Yeah, and this is why it's so important for these Charizard lists to play normally, you know, 1 or maybe even 2 Charmeleon. These Charmeleons have like, great utilities of their own. They do protect you a little bit from, of course, those TM devolution plays, but then also they have really useful attacks and abilities that can really help you advance your game state in a lot of different matchups. We do see there Cleffa coming in with the Grasping Draw, and a pretty good draw off the Grasping Draw off that.
Yeah, and Braiden does actually bench that Shuppet, is playing a similar line. We saw Isaiah Bradner play one of the item lock, the Everlasting Darkness, and one that puts the supporter from your discard pile back into your hand. Now, if Braiden had got that Shuppet down on the first turn, could have threatened a way to slow the game down, give himself more time to set up these Espathra EX and also shut William off of Rare Candy into something like Pidgeot or into Charizard EX. Instead, it's just going to be the Ultra Ball, getting rid of that Banette. I think Braiden understands this ship has sailed, and there it comes, Xatu hitting the field.
Very, very happy to see that. So again, Xatu again, like you mentioned at the start, even that clairvoyant sensibility, a great sort of built-in both draw power and the end acceleration power. Can attach a basic Psychic Energy from your hand to one of your bench Pokemon, and it doesn't have to be a Psychic Pokemon. That is the one thing it does have over Underworld Door that you mentioned earlier. So you can attach your Manaphy if you really need to in a pinch or other types. But
well, it's great for Espathra when Espathra is not a Psychic type; it is a Grass type. Yeah. So. A lot of flexibility. Does have to be on the bench, and we're just going to see the energy on the active and Professor's Research discarding the hand. You could still see this Xatu draw some more cards. After the research, the Manaphy does have a way to retreat. Braiden's not playing any ways to necessarily switch this Manaphy out, so we'll have to commit this energy. I mean, this Cleffa, very easy. If you really sneeze on this Cleffa, even just a little bit, it will be knocked out, and that's sort of the role these baby Pokemon fill. Are we going to see anything like an Espathra? Not quite yet, but there is that clairvoyant sensibility, so we'll see an energy go onto this Flittle into 2 more cards, and there it is, that Espathra EX found, and that is going to be a perfect Pokemon to put into play this turn. We're going to start to see Psyball put on pressure. And not only that, but when Espathra EX sits in the active spot, that Dazzling Gaze ability really is going to make it a lot harder for Charizard EX to attack it.
Yeah, this is the other really great benefit of Espathra. One of the main sort of attractions of the deck is that ability, of course, increasing the attack cost of your opponent's active Pokemon by 1. So a really phenomenal ability. Really kind of forces your opponent to play a bit more awkward and William having to pick up the Espathra to read what it does. Yeah,
hopefully William's been practicing his English, because that card, I'm sure, is not in Portuguese anyway for him to read that. But, you know, William's got to think of a new plan. I'm sure he's played against Espathra on ladder before, probably not in designated testing. You've got to wonder. Espathra as a stage 1 does have a little bit of a lower HP count. It is 260, so with how Charizard works, it's in that range where if you can take 3 prize cards, or rather if your opponent takes 3 prize cards, you can use Burning Darkness for 270 damage. And now William has chosen to play the A-spec of, is it Maximum Belt? We are going to see Maximum Belt. So that is actually important too. 260 can be an awkward number for Charizard. If your opponent takes 1 prize card, you can then use that Burning Darkness. With the 1 prize card taken, it's 210, plus the additional 50 damage from that Maximum Belt. Perfect math to knock out Espathra. And with Braiden taking this knockout, if William can find something like the Choice Belt, which is a perfect thing off this Arven, we could see a return knockout, and Braiden does not have any more Flittle on the bench.
Hold on, a couple of things. First of all, obviously the Choice Belt is not going to work on the Espathra, but second of all, that Rigid Band.
Yeah, the Rigid Band, and I meant the Maximum Belt, excuse me. Yeah,
that makes more sense.
So the Maximum Belt there. Lots of different belts. We got bands and belts and everything in between.
We sure do, but yeah, the Rigid Band is going to sort of prevent that sort of key play, and that's probably why Braiden plays the Rigid Band in the first place, just to prevent that sort of, allow that first 1 prize knockout to be a bit less awkward.
Yeah, but don't count William out, though. Is playing that Lost Vacuum, so if we could see a crazy combo here, I mean, it is a lot on the 3rd turn of the game. Rare Candy into Charizard, that can accelerate the 3 energy, plus Rare Candy into Pidgeot to allow this Pidgey to retreat and to search 1 more card out, plus the Lost Vacuum, plus the Maximum Belt. We could see Espathra go down as soon as it's taken 1 prize card.
But I think you can do it. I think you can put it together. The 2 Rare Candies in hand is going to be a Rare Candy into Pidgeot. You can use Quick Search to search for the Charizard and Rare Candy into that, and then you had the Forest Seal Stone where you use the Star Alchemy on the Rotom to search for the last piece.
Wow, it looks like William drew into a great combination of cards off that Cleffa the previous turn, using that Arven to find Nest Ball for Rotom. Not because he wants to use Instant Charge anymore, but just because he needs a Pokemon to use that Forest Seal Stone Star Alchemy V-Star power, and here we go. Charizard will put 3 Fire Energy onto itself. Usually only need 2, but wants to, of course, play around that Dazzling Gaze ability. And then the Rotom, with that Forest Seal Stone, can search out Lost Vacuum. The only awkward part about this entire exchange is William will have to get rid of this Palpad, but it is more than worth it. What an insane combo here for William, responding to the Espathra. The first turn it comes into play in attacks. William will take 2 prize cards. Braiden having really no attackers in play, just the Banette. And with William having such a low hand and I've already used these rare candies, it's not going to have a big effect at this point.
No, yeah, William going down to a 0-card hand to put this together, but absolutely worth it considering, as you just said, you take all the attackers off the board. So once this Espathra goes, Braiden's left with basically nothing, and there's no... Are there even any basic attackers they can maybe make use of to try and mount some kind of counter attack?
I mean, you can use Alakazam, but your opponent has, again, very few cards in hand, and you don't need it when Pidgeot has also been established. Espathra goes down, Charizard EX swinging back, thanks to the help of that Maximum Belt A-Spec.
I mean, actually think about it, maybe in a different situation, Braiden can maybe think about using Poltergeist, of course, on the Banette EX to take KO, but William's got a 2-card hand.
Yeah, it's really not going to do a lot, and not only that, but Banette is weak to Dark, so it will get one hit knocked out back from Charizard, even if Braiden had a way to remove something like this Maximum Belt, but there isn't any way to get rid of this tool card, so Charizard is just going to be swinging for big damage now, and then remember, Burning Darkness will get stronger and stronger as the game progresses and as Braiden takes more prize cards.
So we did talk earlier about how Prime Catcher seemed like it was a very good fit in Charizard, how, you know, Tord opted to play that over the Maximum Belt, but now we're seeing the opposite argument, right? We are seeing just how valuable Maximum Belt can be for maths on for KOs of Charizard in certain situations.
Yeah, it's a shame you can only play one, but that's sort of how the game goes, unfortunately. We'll see that Clairvoyant Sense, attach some energies, draw some more cards, and there is an Ultra Ball as well as that Banette. So Banette essentially acting as a pseudo versus Seeker. It can always just grab a supporter card out of the discard pile. And I mean, Williams maybe seen this card a few times, but we'll just take another read, make sure he understands everything. And from this point, I think Braiden's really just got to ask himself, what supporter card do you play? Really no reason to play Iona with your opponent having such a small hand. Maybe play the Ultra Ball and definitely needs to get down another Flittle because with this Pidgeot established, any piece that William wants, like Boss's Orders, is easily at his disposal.
Yeah, you can just find it exactly at the right time. Ultra Ball coming in now to just get, and it's going to be, you could get either another Nat or another Flittle. Of course, if you don't get another Flittle down, then maybe William can take an easy KO on it and then leaving no attacker. So yeah, Braiden realizing this, just opts to get the second Flittle there and leaving himself with, I believe it's an Iono and one other card in hand, so I guess it's going to have to be going for that Iono in this instance. Oh, but maybe could be getting messing back from the Bayonet.
We could see the Banette potentially put itself there, but I think there's no reason to.
Nah.
You just want to draw some cards, maybe disrupt William, but you're giving him a few more cards. Really, what was the benefit necessarily of just discarding that Iono? Maybe just wanting to save the Xatu for later on as a way to draw some more cards, and this hand is just a bunch of Pokemon and energy cards. It's just going to pass the turn back over to William, who now has 4 cards to work with, plus this top deck, and the quick search every single turn to find a piece. And he's already at 4 prize cards, guaranteed to go down to 3 at the end of this turn.
I mean, we can't forget as well, William's hand was literally just the 2 prize cards that he took. He played himself down to 0, took 2 prizes, so Braiden essentially has given William a fresh 4 cards from the deck that otherwise he wouldn't have had.
So now comes the choices here for William. Do you just accept to knock this Manaphy out? Do you use one of your boss's orders? Maybe power up this benched Charmander, maybe evolve it into a Charmeleon, make it so that you can respond KO, but I think from this point, as long as William just doesn't let up the prize trade, every time a 2 prize is taken on Braiden's side, William is able to respond with at least a 1 or 2 prize knockout. He will be in a position to close out this first game, and that will be a lot easier because Pidgeot can just find whatever card he needs every single turn.
Well, it looks like William there did opt to just get the boss's orders off that quick search. So with this, I've got to be thinking, maybe going to think about targeting down that Xatu. Of course, if you can't take down other Flittles, why not just take out the only draw engine that Braiden has? Really stop the extra energy acceleration from going on, stop the damage from being able to be ramped up. Oh, actually, no, I was wrong.
Yeah, it's sort of a weird situation. There's sort of support both on the Banette and the Xatu, so I see just going after the energy, maybe forcing your opponent to have some more energy cards to get things going. You also have to remember that you need a pivot, but there's a great pivot in that Banette, of course. It can always just send itself to the Lost Zone. We'll see the Xatu get used first, put 2 energy into play. And this is sort of an interesting argument at the end of the day. If you're going to take a prize regardless, you really just know you have to keep the lead. Was it worth just taking that turn to, instead of boss's orders, prepare yourself to put another Charizard into play, or get ready to use that Radiant Charizard, which is a great attacker into this grass type Espathra?
Yeah, I guess it's just because obviously the KO on the mana here doesn't really feel great. It doesn't get you anywhere in terms of advancing your board state at least, or at least denying Braiden's one. Whereas if you take down Flittle before it evolves, it's one less attacker that William has to deal with later. So yeah, I could definitely see the argument for it either way, but this is the decision that William has made. And yeah, with Braiden now being able to kind of pseudo pivot with this Burnett, it's always easy to forget because so many of these abilities only work on the bench, of course, but Burnett does work in the active, so you can just use the ability, it goes to the Lost Zone, and then you have to bring up a new Pokemon, and it still works the same way.
Yeah, so Espathra only needs the 2 energy here with Cyball to take a knockout, thanks to forcing Charizard to have 3 due to that Dazzling Gaze ability. So we'll see the attachment for turn, and then Burnett can send itself to the Lost Zone. Make sure we know where we gotta go. So Burnett will go to the Lost Zone, and an Iono will get grabbed out of the hand. So with this knockout onto the Charizard and the Iono being played, William will be put down to a 3-card hand and need to find pieces to respond to this Espathra before it gets out of hand.
And sometimes this is just the way you play the game, right? You just go disruption, disruption, disruption. Eventually my opponent's got to miss, right? It's obviously a lot harder when you're dealing with a Pidgeot that can search out for any card, but if you need more than one card to piece together a combo, that Iono can still be enough disruption to win you the game.
Yeah, you really just got to think about the trade-off. Again, I keep just thinking back to that boss. I mean, boss is great, right? You target it down the Flittle, but this Espathra is still attacked. Braiden had the pieces to put it together, and now you're stuck with a 3-card hand. You can't use your Forest Seal Stone. Your Star Power has already been used, and not only do you need Rare Candy Charizard, but you also need 3 energy. William is only playing 6, and because 3 are already in the discard pile, and 1 was also discarded earlier to retreat to Cleffa, William is also going to have to find that Super Rod to take a knockout onto this Espathra.
And this is where the Dazzling Gaze becomes especially strong with Charizard. Obviously, being able to hit for weakness is already great, right? Because you can take KOs easily. But what it means is exactly like you said, these Charizard decks are playing such low counts of fire energy. Sure, you can easily power up a Charizard to attack with that Infernal Rain, but when you're playing such low energy counts, you'll put so much more pressure on the Charizard in the later turns to actually be able to continue attacking.
So this is a tough decision here for William. Does have that Luminion in hand, as well as a few supporters like that Arven will actually just bench and use Luminion's Luminous Sign ability, searching the deck, for a supporter, and it is going to be that Roxanne. So William just needs to hopefully draw a few more cards, and will also disrupt Braiden's hand size, maybe make it a little bit harder for him to have a follow-up attack or have a follow-up plan if this Espathra goes down maybe the following turn.
Yeah, maybe giving Braiden a taste of his own medicine there, saying, you know what, if you're going to disrupt me with Iono, I'm going to treat you to a Roxanne in return. And of course, Roxanne's so strong because unlike with Iono, you get a much larger hand dice from it. As long as your opponent has 3 prize cards left or less, you get to draw 6, your opponent gets left with 2.
And let's not forget, this Pidgeot EX has not used Quick Search yet, but William deciding to evolve this Charmander into Charmeleon before using this Roxanne, which means as things stand, William is not going to be able to deal damage and attack into this Pokemon. See if William just decides to let a prize card get taken, but that's just more time for a potential 1 more attack to come out, and especially with these low HP, weak V and EX Pokemon, or rather V Pokemon on the bench. I mean, Braiden's just got to put 5 energy together to maybe take a knockout, or of course, knock out 1 more of those Charizard EXs if they come into play.
Yeah, I guess what you can do in the meantime is you can just leave this Pidgeot active. It's got a retreat cost of nothing. You don't need to attach energy to it in order to retreat, so you can just leave it there and kind of force Braiden to build up those energies to be able to KO anything. And I think that's probably, if William's committing to evolving to the Charmeleon, I think that's probably the best thing you can go for this turn.
Yeah, it is a little bit strange. I mean, Charizard is usually a very efficient attacker once your opponent hits the 2 to 3 prize card range, but because of that ability, it's still Charizard now, instead of having a 5 energy attack cost, it has a 6 energy attack cost. So, I mean, William, he could leave this Pidgeot in the active spot, but from there, what has to happen? If William accelerates 3 energy cards onto this Charizard, then that means, yeah, you take the knockout on a Espathra, but if you're knocked out back, not only do you lose your Radiant Charizard and the energies attached, but your Charizard that you evolved isn't powered up at all.
No, exactly. So very, very tricky spot here. And I think given that, leaving the Pidgeot active is probably the best thing to go for. Over to Braiden's side, as you do see, does put down that Flutter Mane with a Psychic Energy, of course. Will be an option to maybe do that Hex Hurl attack and maybe start picking off for something on the bench. We see another Iono. Like, is that 3, 4 Ionos in a row now for Braiden?
Lots of Ionos, lots of disruption. Let's see what Braiden can find, and there's really nothing in this hand. So now Braiden has an interesting choice. Do you just poke this Pidgeot for a little bit of damage? Do you just hit it for 90, or do you retreat out? And we are going to see the retreat into the Cleffa to fill up the hand. Now, this is the shiny one, so maybe I'm a little bit more biased, but it's going to get the job done regardless. Fill the hand up to 7 cards. And now William essentially buying himself a turn, but is still in a pretty weird position. If you knock out this Cleffa, how are you going to take your last prize onto one of these 2 prize Pokemon like the Espathra?
There's a bit of a shiny face-off going on here, and you have to realize a shiny Pidgeot versus a shiny Cleffa.
Shout out to Paldean Fates, that bonus expansion that we got over the winter. Gotta love those new shiny cards.
Absolutely. Speaking of shiny cards, there's a few more on William's side of the field and in the hand, but nothing that is great to work with right now. There is that Arvin in the hand, so maybe that can dig for a tool and an item to try and bail William out a little bit here. But I mean, the main thing you really need to find is just that Charizard, right? You just want to get more energy in play, you want to start attacking some more, but you do have the quick search option still, so there is a lot that William still has to work with. Yeah,
the big issue is, again, it's going to come down to how does William put off the final attack. This next attack, whether you're taking a knockout on the Espathra or something else, that's not hard to see, right? You can power up either the Radiant Charizard or the Charizard EX with that Infernal Rain ability. But from there, Charizard EX, usually you can just manual attach to it, but you can't if that Espathra EX is active. So I think what William may have to do here is find an opportunity to knock this Espathra out before it comes up and attacks. Because there are no Flittle on the bench, William may just have to deal with this one at some point, and if he can deal with it early, he can then use that Radiant Charizard just as it should be for the single fire energy to close this game out. Let's see if he can do that, or if he decides to go for this route of play.
He's having a look through, and I think he's debating whether to search for a super. I saw him putting the Charmander to the top of his Discord pile, maybe sort of debating what he's been through. Did find, what was that? No, it looks like an Iono from the quick search. Okay.
Yeah, essentially negating Braiden's turn of building this hand up, and is just going to play Iono, put all those cards to the bottom of the deck. And honestly, for William here, I'm not sure if he necessarily did it the turn before, but I can instant charge as well to just end the turn off and just draw a few more cards.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he forgot to instant charge, didn't he?
I don't think he instant charged. I think is now maybe realizing, I might as well just instant charge, and those are also some good cards to work with. Rare Candy, Ultra Ball, all things that you want for the future. This Cleffa will be left in the active spot, same as this Pidgeot, and there is the second Xatu, but there is really nothing else in this hand. There's a boss's orders. Do you ever boss and target up something? You could take a knockout onto the Pidgey on the bench. It does have 50 HP, but no, it's just going to be Cleffa filling the hand back up to 7 again, using Grasping Draw. This time, getting a few more pieces. We do see, actually, the Energy Retrieval. That's a card we haven't really seen in any deck since the F rotation so far.
Yeah, I think the problem is, though, if you take a KO on the Pidgey, you play right into enabling Countercatcher on William's side. So I think definitely wiser to go for the Grasping Draw there, just build the hand up a little bit more, because now, William just discards the Countercatcher instead. But he would have been able to use that to KO the Espathra otherwise.
But does now have Charizard, so if there's a boss's orders, William can target down this Espathra. Since Braiden has taken 3 prize cards, it will be doing 270 damage. And how does Braiden respond to 3 energy, fully powered up Charizard? I don't think there's a lot of plays. No. Pidgeot using Quick Search, and it will find the boss's orders. This is a huge turn of the game for William. After that big knockout for Braiden, William finding the pieces early on, and now taking some time off, and gets the 3 energy Charizard and the boss's orders on Espathra, and Braiden just scoops his cards up and is ready to go to the second game.
A masterclass there in Charizard. Hugely well played by William and by Braiden as well. That was a really great game, really showing how Espathra forces Charizard to make these awkward decisions. William able to pull it out in the end and just sort of play through those awkward turns, finding the Super Rods at the right time. But you can see how the Espathra deck got to where it is now.
Yeah, absolutely. You should see Braiden there at the end of the game showing that one of those Espathra were in the prize cards. You have to imagine if maybe one more of them are down in that situation. Yeah, you can do this great play where you knock the Espathra out, but if another one comes down and gets powered up, I think Braiden still has a shot in that game.
Yeah, exactly. And it was really down to the wire, and it really came down to the end. A lot of the disruption cards. We saw the Roxanne and the Ionos being fired back and forth, and it was essentially just like who blinked first and who was able to draw out of it best in each of those instances. As we saw there, the very early KO, of course, with that max belt, getting rid of the Rigid Band, and that was a really key first KO there from William.
Yeah, what a crazy combo. Double Rare Candy Candy, Pidgeot, Arven, Forest Seal Stone, Maximum Belt, Lost Vacuum. That was a lot, but William understood what he needed to do and was able to pull it out. We also saw all of those energy in the prize cards. We didn't even note that. There were 2 fire energy in the prizes, which means those rods were super key to put those fire energies back and make things happen. And then at the end, it was just the boss's orders. William having what he needed to get through a Spathra. It's a super intimidating Pokemon. It makes you definitely have to think outside the box a little bit. But William, as an experienced player, knew what he had to do and definitely will want to do exactly what he did in Game 1 again, unless Braiden is able to stop him.
Yeah, William, one of Brazil's best players. We've seen him come up time and time again, and really in these higher tiers and to end rounds on these streams, over at regionals and internationals. So yeah, no surprise at all to see him with a good slot, maybe making his way to top 8. And he's only 1 game away from getting to an 11-3 record, and then at that point, 1 more win, and he should make it top card.
Luminion in the prize cards again.
Oh, again!
That's a little bit unfortunate. We saw how useful it was there in that first game. A few Ultra Ball, but I think we are going to have a great match. So let's get down into it. Game 2. These players need to win this and their last round if they want a chance. And wow, it looks like Braiden actually opting to go second in this circumstance, and this hand is not great as it stands. Now, Braiden doesn't have a lot of ways to necessarily disrupt. There is an Ultra Ball for William, so I think maybe considering, do I grab Rotom, draw some more cards, and with this Ultra Ball, I think that's most likely going to be what William can do to just hopefully get set up. There's a good follow-up for next turn. I think I saw Rare Candy Pidgeot in hand, but of course, you still want to get those Charizards up and running as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think if you didn't have the Rare Candy Pidgeot, I think you would have to maybe go for Rotom here, but in this instance, you want to get a Charmander down, because you ultimately next turn, you could just, go Rare Candy Pidgeot, find another supporter next turn and keep going. So I think it's worth the quote-unquote risk of going for just a Charmander here, even if it means you're kind of not left with much draw.
Yeah, it's interesting both ways. Of course, if you do get Iono, then your board is just a lot weaker. You can't bail yourself out with another instant charge if you don't find a lot of pieces. Also, you've got less ways to search out the Rotom, so using Ultra Ball just to find a Charmander definitely hurts, but with William's hand, I can understand this line. Getting the Charmander into play, just giving himself more options for the following turn.
There is actually an interesting dynamic here, because, of course, if William wants to use Quick Search, he's going to have to retreat this Pidgey, because, of course, this Flutter Mane is going to shut off the ability of the Pidgeot in the active. But then if he does that, and then he brings up a Charizard, and then he evolves, that ability was going to be negated. So there's a bit of an interesting dynamic going on there.
Yeah, Midnight Fluttering, definitely a very solid, strong ability. We are just going to see... okay, there we go, capturing Roma. Braiden a little struggling with the dice a little bit, but we've got it going on, so... If it's heads, we'll see a basic... if it's heads, we'll see an evolution Pokemon. Tails, we'll see a basic come into play. I think this is what Braiden wants, instantly looking at that Flittle. We'll bench it, put it into play. We'll be interested to see what the rest of the hand looks like. It looks like for now, that's the only card that can search the deck for Braiden. So maybe having a supporter card, something like Research or Iono. Flutter Mane isn't necessarily in the deck for this matchup, but like you said, if you don't really have a great Pokemon to pivot into, or if that Pidgey is in the active spot, not able to use any abilities in your active as long as Flutter Mane is active, thanks to that Midnight Fluttering.
Yeah, well, look at this setup here from Braiden. It had 2 Nasus ready to go in the hand with the Flittle there as well, and the Shopper for good measure. This is a great first turn setup from Braiden.
Just going to pass things over to William. Let's get a Roxanne off the top, but that's really not what you're looking for.
Nope.
We'll potentially have to just retreat into this Charmander, use Quick Search, and give Braiden another turn to set his board up.
Really, really not ideal. It's, it does have the Arven in hand. Okay, missed that early on. So, going to have more than just the Quick Search to work with here. We'll be able to find. Could go for a similar combo to last game. Maybe could find that Rotom V in the Forest Seal Stone. But no, looks like it's going to be the Buddy Puff in here.
Yeah, William has to be careful in this matchup about how aggressive he goes. If he wants to Rare Candy Charizard this turn and doesn't leave himself with enough resources, he is going to get knocked out by a Spathra, and then Braiden will have another turn to attack, use these Zatu's abilities, power up more Pokemon, and things could definitely get dangerous. Braiden doesn't have information that Charmeleon is in the prize cards, but this is a situation where using that Everlasting Darkness, item locking your opponent could definitely get you into a solid situation if you can do it before your opponent uses Rare Candy and Charizard together.
Yeah, and given that, this is a very, very clever play here. So you grab the Buddy Puff in, you bench yourself a Clefairt and another Charmander, and then you can retreat. Now you use the Quick Search, and then you just end your turn by using the Clefairt to draw more cards. A really, really great backup play.
You'll see this last card drawn or found off the Pidgeot. We could see something like Rare Candy, another supporter card for next turn. There's really a lot of good options. It just comes down to, you're going to draw 3 more cards, so which combination of cards in your deck will allow the card you grab off Quick Search to be the most effective. And that's what William's really thinking about right now.
Yeah, and it is tricky because, of course, this card that you search means there is one less card you get off of the grasping draw. So maybe you might think to yourself, oh, I want to get a card that I can play down straight away so I can still draw more. Or if it's important enough to keep in hand, then you still go for it just because you may as well, given that you have the quick search and you can only do it once per turn, and then you just go for the grasping draw anyway.
It will be that Charizard EX, so
okay.
See the Charizard, the Devolution on the Cleffa, kind of threatening. You know what my Cleffa can do. I got the strongest Cleffa in the world, and it's just going to be drawing 3 cards, but there, it hurts to see you just draw into the card you just quick search for. You don't need double Charizard. If that was a rare candy, it would have been a lot better. And Braiden starting his turn off with another capturing room, like getting a little bit lucky, flipping heads, and now getting this Espathra EX into play.
Yeah, but just going back a little bit, this is also the problem with a quick search, right? Because you can only do it once per turn, you have to do it that turn before you draw. So you're basically forced into doing unoptimal sequencing, and in that instance, it kind of came back to bite William, unfortunately.
It has the Zatu as well, so can use that clairvoyant ability. Draw a few more cards, but does draw into a little bit of an awkward card there. That Super Rod would be super useful later on, and I think Braiden may just be trying to maximize how he used the Super Rod, maybe retreat this Flutter Mane first, but no, it's just going to be playing the Super Rod before retreating, shuffling this Zatu that was discarded earlier on into the deck, and then most likely playing that Professor's Research to draw a few more cards and see what else Braiden can put together.
Yeah, it is an interesting choice to play the Super Rod first. I mean, maybe you don't want the entry back in hand for some reason. I'm trying to think of what the reason behind that could be. Oh, there's a Pokemon League headquarters as well. Yeah,
this is an interesting situation where I kind of think this turn may have been okay to use Banette, but it's so weird because, again, Braiden doesn't have information that William prized Charmeleon. If Braiden knew that somehow, of course he would just item lock, but putting the Banette in play, while it does slow your opponent down in the current moment, it's always an easy 2 prize cards if Charizard EX ever gets established.
Yeah, it looks like Braiden did find, I'm not sure if that was a Nest Ball or if it was another Buddy Puffin, but was able to use that to get another Flistle down, so that would be great, of course. Inevitably, this Espathra will go down at some point, so got to make sure that your backup attacker is there ready to go. And see, now I'm thinking, if Braiden didn't retreat this Flutter Mane, or I guess he's going to do it now, but yeah, you could have gotten that energy back if you're going to do this anyway. Maybe it just doesn't feel great retreating preemptively before you know what you draw.
It's weird. I think there's maybe a situation where it's not bad. I think also there is like a world where you wait to just attack with Espathra before taking any prize cards so that you can maybe take a 2 prize knockout, but then William's just going to sit there with Cleffa over and over again, make sure his board is perfect, and then by the time you guys face off, I hate to say it, but Pidgeot Charizard with a fully developed board, that is, I don't care what type you are, that's a pretty hard deck to beat.
Although it would have been interesting because with the Pokemon League headquarters, William would have actually been forced to attach an energy to Cleffa to attack with it.
Yeah, it definitely would have been a little bit interesting. I'm not sure William would have necessarily done that. Maybe that's a situation where Rotom finally comes down into play and just uses instant charge. But here we go, Pidgeot Quick Search, and I think William has a very solid combination of cards in hand. Already has the Maximum Belt and the Charizard, so if William wants to be able to do what he did last turn, or last game rather, he can with 1 less piece. Does not need that Lost Vacuum since Braiden has not attached Rigid Band, and immediately going to just go ahead and play the Arven.
Wait, hold on.
Okay, there we go.
There's a step missing there.
So we'll make sure we're all good. So Arven will get played down. There it is, Rare Candy and that 4 Seal Stone. 4 Seal Stone for now not doing anything, but Charizard EX comes into play using that Infernal Rain ability, powering itself up, and Espathra again will go down the turn after Braiden has taken his first prize card.
I got to say, it is so cool. I just looking through it when we saw the deck search there from William's side, seeing all like the Portuguese names for the trainers, the Brazilian in me is just makes me very happy seeing all that. It's always nice to see the Brazilian representation on stream.
Yeah, it's great to see different languages. Of course, these international championships are a celebration of different cultures, of different players from all around the world. But for now, William is going to show why he is one of the strongest representatives from Brazil. Energy on the Pidgeot and the Maximum Belt. Charizard, Burning Darkness, again taking the knockout, and does draw into that Charmeleon off the prizes as well.
Just like Game 1, a phenomenal first knockout, and this is really why Maximum Belt is so great. Normally you think as the Espathra player, oh, okay, if I take 1 prize, I'm safe, but with the Maximum Belt, no, you're absolutely not, and that's why Braiden does play the Rigid Band, but wasn't able to find it for that Espathra, unfortunately.
Yeah, this time, though, Braiden does have another Flittle down and a very solid hand, has Ultra Ball and multiple Psychic Energies in the hand, so again, if Braiden can just put 2 energy onto an Espathra EX, that Psy Ball attack will deal 180 damage ×2 for the weakness, and Charizard EX, after putting in all that work, powering itself up and attaching that maximum belt, will fall.
Yeah, so this is exactly where the sort of the type advantage, sort of the weirdness of, you know, normally fire beats grass, but actually grass beats dark, because everyone's terrestrialized over here. It's there's a type mix. It reminds me of it's like the new era Delta species.
Yeah.
It's just all these type mix-ups. It's so much fun.
Nice to see Pokemon get some more off-branded types, some types that they aren't necessarily, but it feels like they embody sometimes. We'll see that Clairvoyant Sense ability be used. There's the energy on the Flittle. One more attachment as well. Just, I think, Braiden making sure he understands exactly what he needs to do. And this is sort of a little bit of an awkward position, because Braiden has plenty of supporter cards, would really like to save this Banette for later on. But, I mean, with the way things work, he may have to do that. However, there is an Ultra Ball, so maybe there is a world where you grab another Xatu, use this ability again, and then you can pay manual retreat on this Banette and save that ability for later on.
Yeah, that would be so he needs to find another Pokemon search, and I do believe that energy is already in hand, isn't it? So as long as Braiden is able to find another Pokemon search off of this Clairvoyant Sense, then this will absolutely pay off, and then you can save that Banette for later when you really need to get back a Visor Supporter for that turn.
There's a Professor's Research, I think, also looking for another Flittle.
Oh, it's capturing a robot!
Are we going to spin the wheel again? Is this how we're going to play it out? Heads will be able to find that evolution Pokemon, and what's the result? It's off the camera. It is a Heads! So a Spathra will come down. Neither player, though, out of the woods yet. This could still be anyone's game. I think a lot of this is going to come down to what Braiden can find off of this research. If he can put another Flittle into play, then it really incentivizes William to be cautious if he wants to overextend and take a knockout onto this Espathra.
Yeah, and now with the manual retreat there, we'll be able to retreat the Banette, save it for later, going to bring it up, then the Rigid Band going to make it a bit harder for William to take KO here, especially because, of course, there's no real way to get back that maximum belt, and 240 is not going to be enough to KO this Espathra.
Yeah, if Braiden will take three prizes, but it's still the same thing, right?
Yeah.
290 HP, so William will be short of taking this knockout, so may have to take a turn off and maybe use a heat tackle or do something. Of course, the 30 damage less is after weakness, so you can deal 60 and then minus 30 and set yourself up, and there is no Flittle coming down, but I think Braiden feels pretty confident that William is not going to have the pieces needed. Would need to find a crazy combination, would need Rare Candy, Charizard, Super Rod, and then also have the Lost Vacuum to get rid of that. But we saw how that was a key card for William in that first game, and again, I have to think, Braiden not getting the Flittle down in this situation opens up an opportunity where I think if you're William and you have the pieces to do that combination, you go for it, because there's very little Braiden can do to respond and knock you out the next turn.
10,000%, and we do see there that so much of it is already in hand. There is the Lost Vacuum in hand already. There's the Forest Sealstone. I think he has it all.
Oh, and the Super Rod as well. Lost Vacuum, Super Rod, and that Force Sealstone, that V-Star power, has not been used yet. Now, William does still have that Luminion in the prize card, so this Ultra Ball will not be able to find that, but he can grab that Charizard EX. There's not quite enough energy, but thanks to Super Rod, can put those energies back into the deck.
So I guess the main thing that he needs right now is just a way to get a V Pokemon down. Of course, so there will have to be the Rotom in this instance, because as you mentioned, the Luminion is prized. So does he have a way to do that as well as to evolve the Charizard?
I think this is a lot easier here for William if he just has the Luminion, can then essentially get an extra piece thanks to Arven. So the question here, are the pieces here? But I think they are. You can use the Super Rod, put back in these energy cards, and then Quick Search plus the Lost Vacuum. I think that's here, yeah. So the Lost Vacuum's already in hand, so Quick Search can grab the Rare Candy, and then the Forest Sealstone can grab the Charizard Freya. We're going to see another huge Lost Vacuum play from William to take himself down to 2 prize cards. And yeah, Braiden's got lots of support on his bench. Those Xatus, the Banette, but there's no attacking threats at all, and not a lot that he can do on the following turn either.
Wow, absolutely phenomenal play. 2 games in a row, William has done this insane combo play to get rid of the Rigid Band and take the knockout. And wow, the power of Charizard in full force here on our international stage. I
don't even think, does he not even need to use the, doesn't even need to use the Force Sealstone this turn with how it says. Already just has all the pieces, can just put the Rotom down. I thought he needed one more piece, but no, William's got it all and more. Just gonna get rid of this counter catcher, get rid of the Rigid Band, and then also has a Roxanne to follow it up. What is this hand for William? That is insane. What an incredible draw here for William. Had all of that and hadn't even played a supporter yet and said, yeah, I'm knocking out your only threat on board. You know what I'm also going to do? To raise that, I'm going to put you on a 2-card hand. You have no attackers left. I'm going to 2 prize cards. What are you going to do to me?
And even if you disrupt me, I have both a quick search and a Forest Seal Stone that hasn't been used yet to dig myself out of it. So yeah, William really putting the checkmate on Braiden right now.
This is an excellent turn for William. I think William smells it. He can smell how close he is. Even has a buddy poppin' off of this Roxanne to get another Charmander into play so that if for some reason this Charizard falls, he can have ways to power up more attackers and still also has that Radiant Charizard, another ace up his sleeve.
Yeah. Wow, I'm stunned, honestly. Like 2 games in a row, William has just put together the perfect combo, and this is what Pidgeot really enables, especially.
Yeah.
This is why, we did wonder maybe if, from looking at the results in Japan, whether the barrel variants of Charizard would become more popular, but no, it seems like Pidgeot is very much still the dominant way to play this deck.
Yeah, it's gone full circle, but here we are. Charizard EX taking the knockout on Espathra. William going down to just 2 prize cards left, and now Braiden is in a very awkward spot on a 3-card hand. Doesn't have a lot, but does top deck that Psychic Energy, so that Clairvoyant Sensibility will be back online. But the question that I have here for Braiden is, how many Flittle are even left in the deck? If there isn't any Flittle, then what are you going to power up to attack? The Flutter Maid's not going to do much. 90 damage is not what you need this turn. There's 1 Flittle, but because William still has Quick Search, you can power it up and prepare it, but it will just get bosses ordered and killed, or rather knocked out the following turn.
Yeah, and as far as I'm aware, there's no way for Braiden to get a second Flittle out, right? Is there even any Super Rod in the deck? Okay, there are 2, but you need to find Super Rod. With the resources you have in hand, you just can't really put it together. There's a Clairvoyant sense, I guess, to try and get there.
Braiden's going to do everything he can. He's not going to give up at this point. Does find a Professor's Research, but draw as many cards as you'd like. It's just not going to be enough at this spot. Braiden will do what he can, draw this up. If he can find something like a Super Rod and then another way to search this Pokemon out, there is a chance. Braiden is playing 1 more copy of that Super Rod. These are going to be a big 2 cards here off of this ability. Can Braiden find that last remaining Super Rod in the deck? If he can't, this Flittle is going to be all alone, and he cannot. There's no way to get another Flittle in play, and you see it on Braiden's face. Doesn't think there's any way to close this game out. Really, William running away with things and smells it. He can taste that he's so close after this. Just 1 more win
and
away.
That's it.
And Braiden says, I can't win anymore. William, you've got it. You are now 1 match away from putting yourself in a spot to make top 8 at EUIC.
Wow, what again, a ferocious display of Charizard's power there. Huge congratulations to William, our round 14 feature match winner, and only, as I said, 1 match away from potentially locking up his spot in the top 8 of this EUIC.
Wow. What an insane game that was. A lot of people say that, yeah, the only reason this Espathra deck's really popping up is because it has a good matchup on paper against Charizard. You force them to commit a lot of resources. You 1-hit knock them out for a lot less work, right? You've just got to put Espathra in play. But for Braiden, it wasn't that things didn't necessarily go his way. It was just towards the end of that game, didn't have enough Espathra to continuously knock out. It would have been a very interesting end of that game if maybe he has 1 more Espathra EX, puts together that knockout, and then William is forced to find some sort of combination of cards to maybe Rare Candy Charizard plus the Super Rod again. That would have been really interesting, but that's the way the cards fall sometimes. William really capitalizing off that Maximum Belt. If not for that card, this would have been a completely different matchup.
Yeah, Maximum Belt really like the key difference maker in both of those games. Able to take an early knockout, whereas otherwise William would have been able to. And that when putting it together with the Lost Vacuum and Burn, so 2 separate instances to get rid of the Rigid Band, that also would have meant a knockout. So William just finding the perfect combo pieces every single time to get a KO on an Espathra that would otherwise be unreachable.
What a game. Wow. We are getting into it. This is going to be exciting. That was such a game to watch, and then game 2 again. Braiden looked like he had a lot better of a start. Got multiple Flittle down, was drawing tons of cards, got the Zatu's established. William was kind of struggling a little bit in the early game, had to rely on Cleffa, get that Pidgeot into play, but William just had the pieces. Of course, that's sort of the risk that you take when you take an early knockout against Charizard is put yourself into that play where Maximum Belt, Rare Candy Charizard can take the knockout on the Espathra. These players had fun, but at the end of the day, William knew what he needed to do, had the resources to do it, and pulled through. And it was really that incredible turn after this where he was able to find the Rare Candy, the Charizard, the Super Rod, the Lost Vacuum, Rotom Forest Seal Stone for protection, and then also had the Roxanne to disrupt. William really had every piece he needed, and Braiden was unable to keep up.
And actually, something we neglected to mention, that lost vacuum was actually picked up as one of the first 2 prizes. So were it not for that, William would not have been able to put that together.
Sometimes it's nice to have cards prized. It's not great when you don't necessarily need them, but how it works out sometimes is you draw into prize cards, they come your way. There's a little bit of a back and forth, but I mean, Braiden really didn't constantly spam Iono like he did in that first game. So there was a little bit of time to take those prize cards, build up a strong hand, and at the end of the day, William Azevedo is going to 11-3. He's going to 33 match points. So he is in a position now where if he can win this final round, he'll put himself at 36 match points and have a shot at making top cut. We still have to do the math and figure out what it's looking like here. Sort of looking at some of the results that we have here. A lot of players, as it stands, sitting at 34, 33 points, except for our top 2 players here, securing themselves up spot. Tord Reklev remains the only undefeated player, 11 wins, 0 losses, and 3 ties at UIC with this last round. If he can take an intentional draw, or even if he can't, at 36 points coming into this round, he has almost locked himself up a spot here at Top Cut.
Yeah, and you know, Ufa Axelson did in fact win his pair down, so on 37 match points, I think he's basically completely locked up, and of course, with that Iron Hands, Iron Crown deck, so we have one guaranteed in top 8.
Yeah, that new archetype from Temporal Forces will be our first locked spot at the Europe International Championship. Some people said, yeah, this deck's cool, but it's too linear, or yeah, you just accelerate, your opponent can play around it, but I mean, play around it as his opponents tried. He's 12-1-1, and he is going to now be battling it out for a chance at $25,000, a trip to Worlds, and, of course, all those sweet booster packs, and who can forget the trophy as well?
Yeah, you could display on the mount speeds at home is something that no one can ever take away from you, that trophy, that title of international champion. Now Ethan, I've got to ask you something. Say if you're in this position right now, what's going through your mind? You know, you're there, you're locked up for top 8, you've got 1 round to go. What's your thought process? What is going through your mind at that point?
Definitely feeling a lot better if I'm locked up before the last Swiss round. What I'm really thinking about is all these players at 33, 34 match points. For a lot of these players, this is their biggest match of their Pokemon career. If you could win this match, top 8 international championship, you get that recognition. You get that stamp on your resume that says, hey, I'm a good enough player, especially in a field as big and as talented as this. That's a lot for me.
Yeah, it really does. And I mean, I've been there, right? You know, I know how it feels to be right on the cusp and the winning end of like a huge world in that instance. But it was, you kind of just end up having to sort of look at everything else. Like, sure, you're aware of how much is on the line, but ultimately you just have to focus, right, this is the game, I'm going to play this game, and, you know, either I'm going to win or I'm going to lose, but I need to just focus on my next opponent.
Yeah, there's a lot to think about indeed. A lot of great names still in the running here as I'm looking at Yuho on his winning in still.
Oh,
so we could see back-to-back top cut